Hey everyone, coming at you with what should be a quick afternoon project here. My little cousin's birthday is coming up and I wanted to make him a present, and what I'd like to do is make a whiteboard for him with his name on it. I bought this pack of whiteboards here. This is like an easel style, sort of two of them attached that unfold and sit on a table. So I have two in here. I'd like to take one out or take both of them out and build a custom frame for it with some of these 1x2 pine strips and add his name on it as well. I've got this pack of laser cut letters here. I've tried making letters like this and it's just not worth the hassle with a jigsaw. This is way too small and intricate to do with a jigsaw, but it's just not worth the aggravation. This was $3 for this pack of letters, so I'm gonna go this route. I think the first step, and we'll figure out how to finish these later, the bare pine. I'd like to paint the letters as well, so I need to make sure my acrylic paint hasn't frozen up in the shed over the last year. But I think the first step is getting these whiteboards out of the frame, and I can start making some measurements for my wood pieces. Off to a pretty good start here. The frames for the whiteboard came off pretty easily. It was just a few screws and then some rivets that I pried apart with a cheap chisel, or an old chisel. I've got my frame cut here, and I have a little bit of overlap, probably about half of it, about half the width, overlapped with the whiteboard here, because my intention is to attach all these together and then route out from the back a channel for the board to sit in, so it's sort of flush with the back but recessed from the front. I think I'm going to bridle joint these together, hence they're all sort of overlapping here. I have a little bit of excess to trim here. I left those pieces a little bit long, so I think I can cut those bridle joints on the bandsaw pretty easily and get everything kind of fit together. So we'll see how that fits together. I might have to bail on that and do a lap joint or something else, but let's see how that goes. All right, quick update. I bailed on the bridle joint idea because I've actually never done a bridle joint before, and I didn't want this to be my first attempt. I figured I would just go with a lap joint. It's easier, and I can kind of make the same cut on every piece of wood, just have to keep everything organized. So I just set up the bandsaw with a about a half thickness cut, and put a stop block at the equivalent to the width, so they'll sync together. It's off by a little bit, that's okay. So I'm just gonna, I realized I'm not really showing any of the work because I can't hold my phone and use the bandsaw at the same time, but just kind of going through these, did that first cut with the bandsaw, and then finished it up with my distant handsaw. So just gonna continue with these and get all the pieces cut, because now I can sink a screw through the lap joint from behind and it'll be extra secure, or use a dowel or something like that. Lap joints came out pretty well, and I've got this sort of roughly clamped up. Actually, it looks better on camera than it does in person. A few imperfections, but if I just got some curly cues coming off, but a little pass with the hand plane around the outside and some sandpaper, and that'll come right up. This is supposed to be nothing too fancy, and I've got I can't speak. Got a nice amount of overhang on the back here. I'm not sure what to do. I think I'll glue this up, and then I can trace the board and then figure out how to route from there. But the sooner I get the glue on, the sooner it'll dry. Frame is glued and came out pretty well. It's not exactly the squarest thing I've ever made, but it's pretty darn close, at least checking with my speed square. I was thinking about adding some screws in between these joints just to secure them a little bit, but I actually made a mistake when I was cutting the lap joints. I selected which sides I wanted as the front and then promptly switched two of them, so I have two good front ones. Like this one has, where is it? Or maybe it's on the, I'm just looking for some imperfections. There's a little bit of chew over here and up here as well. So if I'm just gonna, standard procedure for me is just palm sand the crap out of the whole thing and see which side looks better. So I hesitated to add any screws or anything until that's kind of been determined a little bit later on. We'll just see which side looks better. So now on to some lettering. So my little cousin's name is Aaron, and I plucked out the letters from that pack I bought, and I think I'm going to paint them with this wine color, which actually I got a while ago to paint like a wine glass ornament, and I think that'll look nice against the wood. I'm planning on giving this some polyurethane. I would like to use just this spar urethane, but I think what I'll do is thin it a little bit and use it as sort of a wipe-on poly. I'm not going to use, this is such a small surface area, I'm not going to waste a paintbrush on this, so I think I'll just try to wipe it on, and if I have a smooth surface, it should take okay. and not tug at the rag too much. So I'm gonna get these letters painted, and actually I normally the best shop hack I found is to keep a roll of wax paper around, which is great for painting and gluing and things. But in this case, these parts are so small, I decided to sort of double up some painter's tape here and stick it to my bandsaw plate. So now these letters can't move while I'm painting them. So I'm actually not sure how I'm going to paint them. I don't have any really small paint brushes. I might just use a rag and kind of dab it on, and we'll see how that goes. I can always sand off or kind of scrape off the excess if it gets nasty. Letters are painted, and I wanted to show how I arrived on doing this. All I did was I squeezed out a little bit of paint on my wax paper palette and just used a clean piece of rag on my index finger and dabbed the paint all over. I went about twice and kind of grabbed a blob, thinned it out a little bit, and then dropped it on or tapped it on to I had an incredible amount of control. And I'll just go over a couple of light spots here. It's already starting to dry, which is great. For attaching these to the frame, I'm thinking either E6000 or spray glue, and I'm leaning towards spray glue because even the smallest drop of E6000 under these will probably squeeze out the sides, and I'll be able to have a whole surface area covered with spray glue. So just still debating that, and I think both will equally stick well to the back of the letters and also to the polyurethane frame, but we'll see how the frame comes out and kind of go from there. But I'm really happy with how these came out, and I didn't even really get any paint on the edges. Just a few spots I kind of cleaned it up with my fingernail as I was going. Worked great. All right, back in business here. Glue had some time to dry, and these joints are nice and strong. It feels really solid. I mean, this isn't the strongest method of attachment, but it's a whiteboard. It's not going to see too much traffic. So I picked this side to be the front. Seemed to have the fewest imperfections, and so I just this piece is no good here. There's a little bit of a mark, but I could probably sand that out. Still needs a sanding, but I think for now I'm just going to route out a channel for the whiteboard. I just made a trace, and so I'll route about this thickness out of the pieces here, maybe a little bit more, just so it's a little bit recessed from the back. I'm trying to think of the best way to approach this. I'm not the best at routing, but I'm just going to try to clamp everything down as securely as possible because I don't want these joints to kind of rattle apart. It might have been smarter to route before gluing, but here we are. So I'll get it clamped up, see what the best way is to approach it. I don't have all the router bits on the whole planet, so we'll figure it out, but I don't know a better way other than the router, so we'll see what we can do. So here's what I arrived at for routing. I don't have all the router bits in the world like I was saying, so I think I'm just going to use a rabbiting bit here and just take it's unfortunately this bit isn't the same size as this channel I've drawn, but I'll just I'm just going to go freehand and take some chunks out. Taking a light pass first. It's not even half the thickness of the board, just to kind of feel it out. And you know, if I walk over the line a little bit, it's not a big deal. This will all be hidden on the back, and it just needs to be big enough to fit the board. So I'm gonna take a crack at it and see how it goes. I should probably add a few more clamps. I've just got it clamped to this makeshift bench here. I think that should be enough to keep it from flying away from me too much. All right, routing is complete, and it actually went pretty well. This pine worked much easier than the last piece of maple I tried to route, and then also overshot the lines a little bit and had to trim up. But again, this is on the back. Nobody will see it. So the board fits quite nicely in here. And from the front, none the wiser. So standard procedure next will be, now that the glue is dried and all that, is to just palm sand the crap out of it and kind of just try to homogenize any imperfections and round over the corners a little bit, and then it should be ready for some polyurethane. So time to get my mask on and head outside and do some palm sanding. Sander worked its magic. Looking pretty good. Got some of the nasty bits along the edges off and a few glue stains cleaned up. Of this little channel here had some glue in it. Cleaned that up with the chisel. Rounded the edges, and overall it's looking pretty good. Whoops. Dropped my support here. These are called bench cookies, and they're just supports for when you're painting something. Speaking of paint, as I'm knocking these all over the place, I had them set in the corners. Getting ready for my top coat, which will just be some sort of redneck wipe-on poly. I'm just going to thin some of this spar urethane with mineral spirits, and I I think one coat of lightly thinned poly should be good. This goes on pretty thick generally, so by thinning it, just I think it'll be a little bit. I don't want it to feel like it's caked up. I just want it to have a little bit more of a natural feel, but just a quick layer of protection. Even bare wood would probably be fine, but I think also the letters will adhere better. I'm probably going to put them up in the top left corner. I think they'll adhere a little bit better to a finished surface. So I'm going to get that mixed up and wiped on, and we'll see how that goes. All right, poly is on, and I think it came out really well. Just a thin coat. It was almost dry within a few minutes. It was enough to kind of I could hold the frame and kind of manipulate it around. Did both sides. I'm not going to touch it now while it's curing, but you can see there's some chunks in my. I didn't mix up very much, but there are a few chunks in here. I think that's because of this can of poly. It was about 2 years old, so I think actually the white. I just used a clean piece of rag. The wipe on technique was the way to go. So that way there were no chunks in a brush or something. I was able to just kind of absorb the liquid, and it went on really well. It was probably maybe 70% poly to 30% mineral spirits. I just kind of eyeballed it, and so now it's just about dry to the touch, maybe a tiny bit sticky, but it was thin enough that it dried and absorbed quick enough that you could handle it, like I was saying, kind of manipulate the whole thing and flip it over and flip it around in one hand and wipe on the poly with the other. So I'm just gonna let this cure overnight. I think I showed the letters before. They're a little bit dusty, but they are dry now and they're ready to go. So I'm still debating how I'm gonna attach these. I think I will flip these over and spray glue them. Like I was saying, the E6000, probably not. It would definitely stick, but we'll see how it goes. We need to let this cure first, and then we'll go from there. Good morning, everyone. I realized I made a little bit of progress on this and got a little overzealous and forgot to film, but nothing major. Polyurethane cured pretty nicely, and I just added some of this 3M VHB, cut little pieces and put it in the groove around the back, and not the entire thing, just some little chunks here and there, and pressed the whiteboard in. So it seems to be holding pretty well thus far. I'm just gonna kind of work around it a few times, press it into place. I think the VHB recommends a few days worth of somewhat of a cure time before exposing it to full load. Now this isn't really a loaded item, but I think in the interest of prevention, I might add a piece of this thin plywood to the back if I can. I think that might be the right size. Well, I'll see. Just as an added layer of security for this whiteboard, but I'm gonna let this go for a while. And the front is still just a little bit sticky, and the my working cup of polyurethane here hasn't cured yet. So I think I'm gonna wait a little while on that before gluing the letters on. But that's the last major thing. So we're gonna let this go a little bit longer. All right, everyone. Here's the finished product. I'm not sure where I left off in the video in the shed, but I brought this inside to let the polyurethane dry. It's been about 24 hours, and it felt like it's cured enough to adhere the letters. So I attached these with 3M spray glue. I'm pretty confident in that holding. I think this will be primarily a wall hanging item. I added a simple hanging comb. I'm not sure what you call that, but they're a few bucks for a 5-pack, I think, at Home Depot, and I just nailed it in. Plenty of strength for this, but I also wanted this out of the heat of the shed while the what's it called, the VHB double-sided tape was curing on the whiteboard, and it seems to be holding quite well. So like I was saying, I'm confident in this spray glue to hold these letters on. And my little cousin's name is Aaron, so I put his name on here. He's turning 6, I believe. So when I was that age, personalized stuff was just super, super fun. So I'm sure he'll be happy with this. And if I was gonna do this again, I think I would look for some whiteboards that were a little bit thinner, because this one that I got the front is like sheet steel, I think, with corrugated cardboard in between, and the back is sheet steel as well. Some thinner, like masonite mounted whiteboards I think would be better, because I wouldn't have to route as deep of a channel. That was like the biggest pain of the whole thing, and the messiest and loudest and dirtiest. So I think if I could sidestep that would be even better. But total project cost, we're talking like, let's say $5 for the whiteboard, which came with these markers and magnets. That was $10 for the two of them in that easel pair, so that's $5 each for that. I think an 8-foot piece of this 1x2 from Home Depot is like $2 or $3. You have to fight through the warped ones to find a good one. And then the pack of letters was $3 for, it was like 2 alphabets worth. I think it was 50 something pieces. So well under $10 for this whole project, and I can make a second one just as easily with the second board. And oh, and the wall hanger on the back, let's say $1 for that. So you're talking $10 and change for all this, which and the polyurethane obviously I had, and as well as the spray glue. So hopefully this inspires some projects for you, and thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.